with the background of the slaves that went, and then the pioneering initiatives of the British. Education flourished in that small colony, which was a very small colony in those days in 1787 when it was founded. And then it became a British colony in 1808. That is within the coastal area. And then there is a hinterland after the coastal area, which was a British protectorate in 1897. So later on, both the colony area and the protected area merged to become Sierra Leone as you know today. So if you ask us what makes us tick, I think our culture makes us tick because of our past relationship and interaction with the British and the British culture that we imbibed through having participated in their own cultural aspects and traditional aspects during those days in the Atlantic slave trade. And for now, a blend of that with the traditional African culture, which makes Sierra Leone very unique in stature and culture.
Yeah, but you've been trying to imbibe British culture. Remember that we are in the United States, where we've been trying to shed British culture for 230 years now, and to do things differently. But you seem to have a love of Britain, which is not shared in the United States.
That might be so, but I see a resurgence of British interest through the, what do you call it, the Tea Party. I mean, you all will remember the Boston Tea Party those days, some students of history. No taxation without representation. And so I think there's a resurgence of British interest here.
Tell me a bit about, more about culture, because is religion important in Sierra Leone, and what is the religion?
Religion is very important, but we really don't have religious conflicts. There's cohesion between the two religions. The greater percent is Muslim, about 60%, and about 30% Christians, and then 10% animists. So, but we have very, very good rapport and cordial religious tolerance in that country. We don't have conflicts like in other areas.
What about the women in Sierra Leone, the Muslim women? Do they wear the veil? Do they wear mini skirts or not?
Well, that is very interesting. That makes it very unique because we don't have religious fanaticism there. I mean, we are more modern with our facets of religion, and some perhaps will wear the veil, but it's not compulsory.
What about miniskirts?
Miniskirts, well, like every society, some seem to frown on depending on the length, but we can go with what is a fair length and reasonable. You cover all the interesting parts, that's okay.
Okay, tell me a bit about the politics of, because you have been a colony of Britain. What is the hangover from colonialism in Sierra Leone? What are your memories of colonialism? After all, you are a decolonized country. What do you remember of colonialism, and how important was colonialism in your current history?
Well, I grew up at a phase when I witnessed it for the last 10 years before it folded up in Sierra Leone. Because we had our independence in 1961. And colonialism went on for over a century. I only saw about 10 or 15 years of that, really, before we had independence. My experience and memories are ambivalent. I remember I grew up in an island where the school I attended was a British school called the Church of England, former Church Missionary Society School. And the form of education that was instilled was based on the British system. And in that small country, small island, there were other schools, colonial schools. You had the St. Patrick's, you had the convent, St. Joseph's Convent, and then you had the EUB, Evangelical United Brethren, and they had their female counterparts, the minimal. And you had the Wesleyan Methodists in a very small island like that with a population then of only about 1,000 people. Then you had farms, colonial farms. They were all there. The UAC, United African Company. You had the CFAO. I'm sorry.
Is that your girlfriend calling?
Not my girlfriend. Is. Can you take this and put it? And you had the French company. You had the SCA, Society Commerciale l'Ouest Afrique. You had PZ, Patterson Zoconis. These were all colonial farms in that small island. What was their presence there? It was mainly because of the cassava produce and the oil palm produce. These farms had agents who were the Lebanese and some few Asians. They buy from the local people, and then they sell to the European farms, and then the European farms export. No indigenous people were involved in this trade. So that goes to justify the fact that the coming of colonialism was mainly to promote trade and get the raw materials from the colonies back to the motherland. And then these farms were there also selling manufactured goods. These manufactured goods came from England and abroad. And they even retailed those goods. So there were no middlemen, no local people were involved in anything. So it shows also that colonialism was mainly interested in sending manufactured goods, finding expanding markets for manufactured goods. But the educational impact was so good that even when I left that small island and went to high school, almost all the teachers at the senior level, Form 3 upwards, were all whites. The very principal was Scottish. The physics master was British. The biology master was a New Zealander. The geography master was Scottish. The chemistry master was an Indian. The Latin and French was a Canadian. And so on, the list goes on. So why was all this? At the moment when you were at a point of imbibing a lot of culture, you are confronted with this set. At the lower cadre, from 3 downwards, they were all black teachers. So why that difference? It occurred to me later that it was, in fact, to make sure that by the time you leave the school, you would have imbibed a lot of British culture within your system.